by transcription.
Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay, and Palmolive Shave Creams for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave, bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks, under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, many of the traditional basketball rivalries were settled during the past week. And Madison High School, where our Miss Brooks teaches English, was no exception. Their big game with Clay City High was scheduled for Friday night. And last Wednesday morning, while driving her to school, Walter Denton, the team's manager, tried to sell Miss Brooks a ticket.
I'm sorry, Walter, but I don't think I'm interested.
Don't think you're interested? But, Miss Brooks, that's treason.
How much are the seats?
$1 apiece.
If this be treason, make the most of it. Look, Walter, I don't want you to think that I'm lacking in school spirit. The reason I haven't attended more games this season is because of embarrassment. Our team was just awful. 16 straight defeats, isn't it?
This year, altogether it's 39. But the important game is Friday night with Clay City.
I know. I saw the Clay City game last year. I'll never forget how miserable I felt when I left that gym. The score was Clay City 92, Madison 6.
You shouldn't have left. They really clobbered us in the second half.
Well, I hope we make a better showing this year, if only to keep our beloved principal's blood pressure from reaching a new high.
Well, I don't like to be prematurely optimistic, Miss Brooks, but I met a fellow on our campus yesterday who may make a big difference in the outcome of Friday night's game.
You mean through him we have a chance of winning?
Definitely.
I'm surprised at you, Walter. You should have turned him in to the district attorney immediately.
No, you don't understand. Now, this is a kid who went to Clay City High until his folks moved into our district last week. And now he's going to transfer to Madison. And, Miss Brooks, the minute he told me his name, I knew he'd be a cinch to make our basketball team. Guess who it was?
Lionel Barrymore.
I'm serious, Miss Brooks. Now, this guy happens to be the greatest scholastic basketball player in this area. And what a build on him. He must be 6'4".
Who is this super kid, Walter?
Well, his name is Tex Barton. Of course, Tex is just a nickname because his family came to Clay City from Texas.
Sounds reasonable.
His real name is Vic Barton. Don't you remember the fellow who scored over 50 points against us in the game last year?
Well, now that you mention it, I do remember a boy named Vic Barton.
Well, Tex Barton and Vic Barton are the same person.
No wonder he's so tall.
Well, here we are, Miss Brooks. Oh, say, I think that's Tex going towards school now. After you, Miss Brooks.
Thanks, Walter.
Hey, wait up, Tex. I want to talk to you.
Well, if it ain't Walter Denton, I'm sure glad to... Oh, excuse me, ma'am. I reckon you're Walter's mother.
Have another reckon on me.
This is Miss Brooks, Tex. She teaches English here.
English?
Yes, it's a language spoken just north of Texas. Well, I've got to be getting in now. Nice to have met you, Tex.
Most people feel that way. Well, we really didn't meet hardly. Would you mind if I joined you after school and we chinned for a spell?
Well, I'm afraid I'll have to take my chin home after school. I've got to help Mrs. Davis fix dinner tonight.
Now, that's awful decent of you, ma'am. I'll be happy to have dinner with you.
Huh?
You see, my folks will be out visiting tonight. After I spend what I got on me for lunch, I won't be able to afford no dinner unless I gets me an invite. Mm-hmm. And, of course, down home, we don't think twice about sharing a grub with a stranger. Yes, sir, there's nothing like splitting your chow to help you get acquainted.
Well, get a pencil. I'll tell you how to get to my chuck wagon.
That won't be necessary, Miss Brooks. I'll bring Tex over myself at 6 o'clock sharp. And ma'am thanks a heap for the invite.
You're welcome, Hoppy.
Miss Brooks, suppose you take Tex into Mr. Conklin's office. You can help him get registered real quick. And speed is of the essence, as you know.
Yes, I do. All right, Walter, you park your car, and I'll take Tex in with me.
That's mighty obliging of you, ma'am. Do you think the principal will be willing to swear me in this morning?
Well, it's all according to his mood, Tex. I can promise you one thing, though. When we get to his office, you'll either be sworn in or at. Mr. Conklin's office is right down this hall, Tex.
Well, all right, Daddy, but you don't have to bite my head off. Hello, Miss Brooks. Daddy's having one of his tantrums again. Well, what have we here?
Oh, this is Tex Barton, Harriet. Tex, this is Harriet Conklin.
Howdy.
Hello. You're a long one, aren't you?
Longer than some, ma'am.
And cuter than most. Are you going to be a student here?
I sure hope so. Now.
Say, you're really something.
I try to be. And if I ain't too bold, miss, I wouldn't exactly call you a little old lump of sugar, but I wouldn't want to leave you too close to my little old Pinto either.
I wish I know what to tell my little old stomach. Now, you'll have to excuse us, Harriet. We've got to see your father right away.
All right, Miss Brooks. See you later, Tex.
Goodbye.
Who goes there?
Two friends, sir. Two unarmed friends.
Come in.
Good morning, Mr. Conklin. I wouldn't disturb you, sir, but it's quite important.
One moment, please. So it's finally happened, Miss Brooks. Mr. Boynton has taken you to the zoo once too often.
The zoo?
Don't look now, but one of the giraffes has followed you to school.
Please, Mr. Conklin, this is Tex Barton. Tex, I'd like you to meet Madison's principal, Mr. Osgood Conklin.
Howdy.
What do you know? It talks. Now, what can I do for you? And please be brief.
I thought you might check his transfer papers, Mr. Conklin. Tex wants to enroll as soon as possible.
Well, I suppose that can be arranged. From what high school are you transferring?
Clay City.
Fine. I'm always happy to meet any boy who comes from Clay City.
Yes, sir. Our principal, Mr. Brill, told me a lot about you, Mr. Conklin. But I'm glad to meet you anyhow.
Oh, you are. Miss Brooks, kindly remove this elongated St. Bernard from my office.
Now, hold on there. Who are you calling a St. Bernard?
Oh, don't be angry, Tex. Mr. Conklin didn't mean anything derogatory. You two have got to be friends. Now, go ahead, Tex. Give him your paw. Shake hands.
Step aside, ma'am. Now, listen to me, Mr. Conklin.
You listen to me. You go right back to Jason Brill and tell him we don't want any of his Clay City dunces cluttering up Madison.
Oh, please, Mr. Conklin. You can't know on this short notice whether Tex is a dunce or not.
That's right. You ain't got no proof, nohow. But if you don't want me to go to your school, I'll just go right on back to Clay City.
Oh, wait, Tex. You'll be glad to welcome Tex into Madison, Mr. Conklin, if you'll just let me tell you why you've got to accept him.
I have got to accept no one. Madison High is my kingdom, Miss Brooks, and the choice of the subjects therein is my choice and mine alone. The interview is at an end.
But, Mr. Conklin...
That is all. Dismiss!
Aye, aye, sir. Come on, Tex. I'll show you to the door. Tex, I'll talk to him alone and bring you back when he's in a better mood.
Okay, Miss Brooks. You sure been mighty decent to me, ma'am. Hasta la vista.
Mm-hmm. Adios, hombre. Mr. Conklin. Sir. Sire.
Yes?
Far be it from me to question your motives, but I'm afraid you've hurt that boy's feelings.
Well, perhaps I was a bit harsh with the lad, but he caught me at a bad time. I just hung up on Jason Brill when you both arrived. That malevolent old devil phoned just to taunt me about the basketball game Friday night. He got me so upset I bet him a new hat on the outcome of the game before I remembered the results of last year's contest.
That was disastrous, wasn't it?
They clobbered us. I dug up the newspaper account of the game from my file. I've got it right here. Now look at this headline. Clay City ekes out victory over Madison 124-7.
That must have been quite a second half. There's an interesting subhead, too. It says, wild-eyed spectator leaps on court and bites basketball. Ushers eject Osgood Conklin.
That story is a bald-faced lie.
I know it is, Mr. Conklin. I was there. You bit the referee.
I merely broke his whistle. What burns me up the most, though, is this reminder that after the game, Madison was presented with the symbol of defeat, Cornelius the Goat.
Let's see. Oh, here's that part. Cornelius must be fed and housed on the campus of the losing team for the entire school year. After 4 years of defeat, the goat becomes the permanent property of the humiliated institution. Well, that's a switch on a loving cup.
Let me remind you, Miss Brooks, that Madison has lost 3 games in a row to Clay City. If we lose this one, that bleating monstrosity will be on our hands forever.
Mr. Conklin, do you remember a boy named Barton who scored over 50 points against us for Clay City?
Barton. Oh, of course I remember now. He ran us ragged.
Well, that happens to be Tex Barton, the boy you just gave the old heave-ho.
What? And he wanted to transfer to Madison? Miss Brooks. Dear Miss Brooks. We've got to do something. You've got to do something. Anything.
Calm down, Mr. Conklin. All isn't lost. He's coming to my house for dinner tonight, and I'm sure I can undo some of the damage your temper has done.
That is my problem, Miss Brooks. I'll be happy to have dinner at your house tonight. After all, in Texas, we always say there's nothing like splitting your chow to help get better acquainted.
So I've heard. And the way I figure, if and I can wrestle up enough grub, we might get so well acquainted we'd never have to talk to each other again.
Brush your teeth with Colgate. Colgate Dental Cream. It cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
Colgate toothpaste.
Cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
Colgate Dental Cream cleans your breath while it cleans your teeth. And the Colgate way stops tooth decay best. Yes, the Colgate way is the most thoroughly proved and accepted home method of oral hygiene known today. Over 2 years' research showed brushing teeth right after eating with Colgate Dental Cream helped stop more decay for more people than ever before reported in dentifrice history. The Colgate way stopped tooth decay best. No other dentifrice, ammoniated or not, offers such conclusive proof. And you should know that Colgate's, while not mentioned by name, was the only toothpaste used in the research on tooth decay recently reported in Reader's Digest. So always follow the Colgate way to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and stop tooth decay best.
Brush your teeth with Colgate. Colgate Dental Cream. It cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
And the Colgate way stops tooth decay best.
Well, when lunchtime arrived, I hurried to the school cafeteria to meet Mr. Boynton for lunch. But he was over 10 minutes late. From the explanation he gave when he did arrive, it was obvious he had been detained by someone even nearer and dearer to his heart than I am.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Brooks, but I had to stop by the gym and untie Cornelius, the goat. I'm the only person in school who pays any attention to the poor beast.
I know. Pull up a window and sit down.
Thank you. Oh, before I forget, I brought a little surprise in for you. It's a box of French chocolates.
For me? But it isn't my birthday or Christmas or anything.
I know it. Can't I give you a box of candy if I feel like it?
You certainly can, and it's very sweet of you, Mr. Boynton. I wish I could do something to show my appreciation.
Well, now that you mention it, I'll be very happy to have dinner at your house tonight.
Good. For a minute there, I thought I'd have to keep coaxing you. You'll be more than welcome, Mr. Boynton, but I think I should warn you. There'll be quite a crowd over tonight. You see, when I was in Mr. Conklin's office this morning...
Oh, Walter Denton told me all about it, Miss Brooks. As I understand it, Mr. Conklin insulted the boy, and now he's got to woo him into playing basketball for Madison. Heavens knows the team can use him, and I'd like to help get him into the fold. What time does the wooing begin, Miss Brooks?
Shall we say about 9 o'clock?
9?
Yes, I should be able to get rid of Tex by 8:30.
Dinner's almost ready, Connie. You've been a big help, dear.
But I didn't do anything, Mrs. Davis.
I know, but you stayed out of my way all afternoon. Now you better get back into the living room and join Tex.
Oh, he's all right, Mrs. Davis. I gave him last Sunday's funnies to read and a box of French chocolates to nibble on. You know, you wouldn't think to look at that kid that he's Vic Barton, the famous Clay City basketball star.
He'd have to be something like that. But why is Mr. Conklin so anxious to get him to enroll at Madison?
Oh, it's a long story, Mrs. Davis. I'll give you a rundown after dinner.
Oh, pardon me, ladies, but I got a little lonesome in the living room. The looflurpas are all gone, Miss Brooks.
The looflurpas?
Those French candies you gave me to nibble on. I'll set the box on the sink. Is there something I can do to help get chow ready, Miss Davis?
Yes, there is, Tex. You can get the silverware out if you will.
Oh, that's the front door. I'll answer it. Just make yourself at home, Tex.
I will.
Well, Tex, Miss Brooks has told me what a basketball star you were at Clay City.
Now, I wonder what made her say that. I'm Vic Barton, Miss Davis. Miss Brooks must have me mixed up with my brother Vince.
Oh?
Shucks, I never played no varsity basketball at Clay City.
Oh, Tex, will you come in here, please? We've got company.
Right away, ma'am. I'll be back to help you in a minute, Miss Davis.
It's all right, Tex. Take your time.
Look who's here, Tex. It's Mr. Conklin.
Well, slip us 5, Pod.
What's the matter with him?
Well, Mr. Conklin wants you to know that he was just teasing this morning when he threw you out of his office.
Why, of course, my boy. I do that to all new pupils. It's sort of an initiation. Now, although we don't place too much emphasis on athletics at Madison, I just knew you'd want a star in some sport or other, so I brought you this all-wool sweater, and I had your varsity letters sewn on it in advance. You see, a big M.
At Clay City, we always spelt varsity with a V. But if you was only funning this morning and you really want me to join up, I guess I can think it over a spell longer.
Please do, my boy.
I got to get back to the kitchen now. Miss Davis wants me to get out the silverware.
Silverware? And risk cutting those beautiful basket-shooting hands on a sharp knife? I should say not. I'll get the silverware myself.
Be right there. Well, come in, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, thanks, Miss Brooks. I'm sorry I'm late. Oh, this must be Tex.
Howdy.
This is Mr. Boynton, Tex.
Howdy. I brought this little gift for you. It's sort of a welcome to Madison present.
Gosh, what is it, Mr. Boynton?
It's a knee pad, a brand new one.
Those are the best kind.
I'm sure grateful, Mr. Boynton. I'd offer you one of the French chocolates Miss Brooks gave me, but I'm afraid they're plumb gone.
French chocolates? Miss Brooks, that's the same candy I gave...
Oh, we're doing a big business tonight. Come on in. It's open.
Hiya, folks. Here you are, Tex, old boy. Here's a little present for you.
For me?
Yeah, I noticed you ride a bicycle, so I bought you this master padlock to put on it when you leave it in front of school.
You mean somebody might steal it?
Please, Tex, that's one thing about Madison High. There's never been a master padlock stolen.
I don't get it. Why is everybody being so all-fired nice to me? First, Mr. Conklin gives me a sweater, then Mr. Boynton brings me a knee pad. You give me this lock, and, of course, Miss Brooks gave me a whole box of Looflurpa chocolates.
What? But that's the same candy I gave Mr. Boynton last night.
Walter!
We'd better send the box to J. Edgar Hoover. Must be enough fingerprints on it to keep him busy for months.
Tex, would you please put a new light bulb in the kitchen ceiling for me? We don't have a step ladder.
I'll be right with you, Miss Davis. Excuse me, folks. I'll be back before you can say Sam Houston.
You can say Dick Dallas, too. I've got to talk to Walter. So, you gave this candy to Mr. Boynton, Walter. Would you mind telling me what prompted that unusual action?
It's a lie. The fact that Mr. Boynton gave us a biology test this morning, which if I didn't pass would make me ineligible to manage the basketball team Friday night, has nothing to do with it.
I'm surprised at you. Why, that's nothing short of bribery. And I suppose I'll have to reimburse you for the chocolates you indirectly donated.
Oh, that won't be necessary, Miss Brooks. I got them for nothing from Mr. Conklin. Only he doesn't know it.
What do you mean?
Well, I helped Harriet burn some rubbish yesterday, so she told me to help myself to some candy on the way out of her house. Well, I didn't see the jelly beans she meant for me to take, so I just latched onto the box of French chocolates. It wasn't until today that Harriet told me that old Marvel had bought the chocolates for a special occasion. Gee, if he finds out I swiped him, he'll drub me till I'm simple.
Oh, that's absurd, Walter. Mr. Conklin wouldn't lay a hand on you.
It's not his hand I'm worried about. When he gets through drop kicking the seat of my pants, he'll look like the lobby of Grauman's Chinese.
Well, take it easy, Raffles. Nobody's going to put the finger on you around here.
Well, everything's working out just splendidly, Miss Brooks. Oh, hello, Mr. Boynton.
Good evening,
Good
Mr.
evening,
Conklin.
sir.
I have the honor to inform you all of the fact that, thanks to my warm and endearing personality, Tex Barton has consented to enroll at Madison High immediately.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh,
Mr. Conklin.
congratulations, sir.
Hello, Lulu Marblehead. That's great, Mr. Conklin, just great.
This calls for a celebration. Now, you men stay right here. I'll go out and get the dishes to the dinner table. I thought I'd better get the dishes, Mrs. Davis.
All right, dear. I just checked what we'll need on the kitchen table. Did Mr. Conklin tell you the thrilling news about Tex here?
Yes, he did. Well, needless to say, Tex, we're all delighted to have Clay City's top basketball star as a Madison pupil.
Hold on a minute, Miss Brooks. About that basketball stuff, there's something you ought to know.
You mustn't try to carry so many dishes at once, Connie.
Oh, I can manage them all. What were you saying, Tex?
Well, it's like I was telling Miss Davis. You must have me mixed up with my brother Vince Barton. I never played no basketball for Clay City.
We heard it crash. What happened?
Hey, what is it, Miss Brooks?
Nothing. I merely dropped a few dishes.
Oh, let us help you pick them up. Here, I'll take the plates.
I'll take the soup bowls.
And I'll take the cups and saucers. You've got to be more careful, Miss Brooks. Here, you can hold this large platter.
Thank you.
Shucks, I don't know what made Miss Brooks get so skittish all of a sudden.
Oh, just forget it, boy. Forget it.
I don't understand. All I said to her was she had me mixed up with my brother Vince and that I never played no basketball for Clay City.
Well, let's make it unanimous.
Of course, there's one point I think I ought to clear up. I said I never played no basketball for Clay City, but I didn't say I never played no basketball. It's just that this being my freshman year, I wasn't able to straighten out my credits till a couple of weeks ago.
Nevertheless, the fact remains.
I don't like to brag, but after I worked out with the team for a few days, why, all the coaches agreed my brother Vince was almost as good as I am.
Nevertheless, the fact remains. Vince was almost as good as you are?
Yes, sir.
If I said it once, I'll say it twice. This calls for a celebration. Is dinner ready, Mrs. Davis?
Not quite, Connie. It'll take about a half hour yet. Why don't you all go in the living room and wait?
Oh, but I'm starved. If I could just take something with me to nibble on, I'd say, what's this? Loof Lurper chocolates. Well, I see we have another prankster in our midst.
A prankster?
Yes. This candy is sold only in novelty shops. I bought mine early this year for fear they'd run out. I'm going to send a box to Jason Brill on April 1st.
But I don't understand, Mr. Conklin. What's in the chocolate?
What isn't in them? There's enough pepper and spice in each one to have Brill clutching his bloated bay window for hours.
Very funny.
Are you positive these are the same kind of chocolates you bought, Mr. Conklin? Loof Lurper?
Loof Lurper is simply April Fool spelled backwards.
April Fool candy, it would taste funny, wouldn't it?
Well, that's the beauty of this particular brand. It's got a sweet coating that disguises the pepper. It takes about an hour to work, but once it catches on, oh, brother. Oh, brother.
Tex, speak to me. Why are you turning that color?
I'm a-getting out of here.
Getting out? But why? What's wrong, boy?
I'm a-going back to Clay City.
Yeah, but Tex, you...
At least nobody never tried to poison me down there.
I'm beginning to feel like an emotional yo-yo.
Well, you'll find it out sooner or later, Mr. Conklin. Tex ate a whole box of those candies.
What? But how did he get them?
They were a gift.
A gift? But he's liable to be laid up for a week. And if he doesn't play Friday night, we're certain to get possession of that reeking goat, Cornelius! Now then, Mr. Boynton, Denton, Miss Brooks, I demand to know who gave that candy to Tex Barton.
Mr. Conklin, I can disclose the identity of the culprit with one word.
And that word is?
Eve Arden as our Miss Brooks returns in just a moment, but first...
You get smoother, more comfortable shaves by shaving the Palmolive brushless way. Get smoother, more comfortable shaves the Palmolive brushless way.
Hey, that's a fact, men. You can get smoother, yes, more comfortable shaves the Palmolive brushless shaving cream way. Just rub velvet smooth Palmolive brushless into your beard. Whiskers actually protects your skin by providing a soft film that floats your razor's cutting edge. Remember, over 1,200 men tested the Palmolive brushless shaving cream way following directions on the package. And no matter how they shaved before, 3 out of 4 reported beards easier to cut, less razor pull, smoother, more comfortable, yes, more comfortable shaves. So, men, try the Palmolive brushless way yourself. Even in cold or hard water, you get a close, clean shave. And a smoother, more comfortable, yes, a more comfortable shave.
You get smoother, more comfortable shaves the Palmolive brushless way. Boom.
Next time you shave, try the Palmolive brushless shaving cream way. And now, once again, here is Eve Arden.
This week, the Colgate-Palmolive Peat Company salutes the Girl Scouts of the United States of America on their 39th birthday. Their ceaseless work, training, and activities have proved to all of us that good Scouts today are good citizens tomorrow. Congratulations, Girl Scouts. Good night.
This is Vern Smith reminding you to tune in next week to another Our Miss Brooks show brought to you by Palmolive Shave Creams for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave, and Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay. Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written by Al Lewis and Joe Quillen, with the music of Wilbur Hatch. Listen to this. With Marvelous Vel, V-E-L, you can save 90% of dishwashing work.
Your entertainment and pleasure, here is Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden.
again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, the flames of anger that scorch the soul of a spurned woman just don't seem to flicker so violently in the male animal. As a Cracker Barrel poet once put it, quote, men don't see red like jilted ladies until they drop dead and visit Hades. Our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, expresses the same thought, but on a much higher literary plane.
Quote, nothing to me is so disappointing as to get stood up by Mr. Boynton. Unquote, new paragraph. Last Wednesday night, Mr. Boynton called off a date we had. But the next day, he made me forget all about it by calling off the date we had for Thursday night. And Friday morning, my landlady greeted me at the breakfast table with another pleasant surprise.
I thought you might be sick of scrambled eggs, Connie, so I fixed you something different for breakfast today.
Oh? What is it, Mrs. Davis?
Chicken chow mein.
Chicken chow mein instead of scrambled eggs?
Oh, don't let that bother you, Connie. We can have the scrambled eggs for dinner. Now, drink your fruit juice cocktail, dear. I mixed it for you myself.
What's in it, I'm afraid?
Just the usual healthy combination. Orange juice, a bottle of real lemon juice, some grapefruit juice, and just a smidgen of yogurt.
If you don't mind, I'll have just a smidgen of bicarbonate. Toast and coffee will be plenty for me this morning, Mrs. Davis.
Well, I guess I could save your chow mein until dinner time.
Oh, thanks, but I won't be home this evening. You see, when Mr. Boynton canceled our date last night, he promised he'd make it up to me tonight. He said we'd have dinner out.
Oh, that's nice. Where is he taking you, dear?
Harrigan's Hamburger Heaven.
Connie, that's just a little open-air stand in the park.
Well, that's one thing about Mr. Boynton. When he says we're eating out, we eat out.
Honestly, if he weren't such a handsome devil... Oh, that reminds me. Before you came in, I was reading an item in the school paper that might interest you.
In the Monitor? What is it, Mrs. Davis?
Well, I've got it right here. It's in Walter Denton's new gossip column. Here, read it.
Let's see. Campus dirt shoveled by Walter Denton. My first exclusive. What female English teacher is that way about what certain handsome biology teacher? Your reporter has purposely omitted any names so as to cause no embarrassment to either Mr. Boynton or Miss Brooks. Well, I should have expected this invasion of privacy. Ever since Walter took over that gossip column, he's had his ear to more keyholes than a house detective.
If you think that's bad, read the next item.
It says, my second exclusive. What other lady English teacher is also that way about the same biology instructor? Incidentally, her birthday falls on March 16th, and some of her intimate friends are giving this anonymous lady teacher a birthday party. Many happy returns to you, Miss Daisy Enright. So Miss Enright's having a birthday,
On March 16th. Why, that's tonight, Connie.
Oh, so it is. I wish I'd known that when we were in the cafeteria yesterday. I could have given her something.
Like what, Connie?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I could have slipped something into her coffee.
You shouldn't feel such animosity toward Miss Enright, Connie. She speaks very highly of you. Why, she paid you a lovely compliment when I met her in the grocer's the other day.
What did she say?
She said you have the most interesting figure of any woman she knows.
Miss Enright said that?
Absolutely. Then she said that you always look like you're wearing a girdle, even when you are.
Well, now I know I'll have to get her a birthday present. The trouble is, I'm torn between two gifts.
What are they, Connie?
I don't know whether to buy her a pound of liver or a nice tender canary.
Oh, incidentally, Connie, before I blend it with the topsoil in the backyard, are you sure you don't want to taste this chow mein?
I've never been so dead certain of anything in my life. Besides, I've got to rush down to school. I'd like to get there early so Mr. Boynton and I can discuss the plans for our super special date tonight.
What's so special about tonight, Connie?
Well, tomorrow's Saturday, Mrs. Davis, and there's no school, so we don't have to get up early in the morning. Consequently, Friday is the one night Mr. Boynton really lets his hair down. He pulls out all the stops and doesn't give a hoot about getting home to sleep until 10 p.m.
Well, good morning, Miss Brooks.
Why, Mr. Boynton, what a surprise to see you here.
Surprise. This is my biology lab, Miss Brooks.
Well, what do you know about that? And I thought I was stepping into a phone booth. Well, anyway, now that I'm here, what's new?
Well, I had a very interesting chat a few minutes ago with Miss Enright.
I'll rephrase the question. What's old besides Miss Enright?
It's her birthday, and we were reminiscing about the party she threw on her last birthday. I was her escort on that occasion, if you recall.
Vividly. That was the night I went to see a reissue of This Gun for Hire.
Oh, it certainly was a great party. We had an 8-course dinner, and then everybody got noisemakers and favors. And, well, along about 9 o'clock, I got to feeling real gay. I remember I put one of the lampshades on my head and made believe it was a woman's hat.
Sounds like a real wingding. But let's turn to a more pleasant subject, Mr. Boynton. About our date for tonight.
Oh, Miss Enright reminded me about something else this morning, Miss Brooks. It's very funny how it happened. I just know you'll scream when you hear it.
What is it?
Well, when I was at Miss Enright's party last year, she had so much fun, she asked me to promise I'd escort her again next year, but it completely skipped my mind until she reminded me of it this morning, and that's why I can't take you out tonight. See, I told you. Now, if you'll excuse me, Miss Brooks, I've got to go into the back room for a minute. I've given my frogs and guinea pigs some breakfast. And
Not so fast, Mr. Boynton. There's something we've got to discuss.
Oh, but the frogs and guinea pigs must be finished by now. I've got to clean up their dishes.
Well, let the frogs wash and the pigs dry.
I'm sorry, Miss Brooks, but I've got to get things straightened out before my first class. If you want to wait for me, I'll be back in a few minutes.
Don't worry, I'll be here. You'll recognize me by my white lips. Now make it snappy.
Very well, Miss Brooks.
Fine kettle of frogs this is. Of all the unmitigated nerve.
I love life and I want to live.
Oh, it's you. Well, good morning, Miss Enright.
Why, Miss Brooks, I'm glad you spoke up, darling. I was about to hang my coat on you.
Go right ahead, dear. Then I'll hang one on you. There'll be a short wait for Mr. Boynton. He's been feeding the livestock.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your breakfast. But then I shouldn't tease you on this of all days. You know, congratulations are in order. I'm 24 years old today.
24.
Well, I can't blame you for being a trifle more bitter than you are normally. After all, Mr. Boynton did have to break a date with you so he could escort me to the party tonight. But remember, darling, this is a special occasion. After all, I don't have a birthday every day.
Oh, I know. You just look that way.
You're such a doll. Well, what I had to say to Mr. Boynton can wait until later. I've got to get back to my classroom now. Just tell him I'll see him after a bit, Miss Brooks. And give him my love.
I'll tell him you'll see him later. On second thought, I may not wait to tell him anything. If he thinks I'm going to jump at him every time he calls my name, he's got another think coming.
Oh, Miss Brooks.
Oh, here I am, Mr. Boynton, right here. What can I do for you? What is it? What can I do? Yes? What can I do?
Miss Brooks, I can't tell you how miserable I am about having to call off our appointment for tonight.
Oh, let's not discuss it, Mr. Boynton. As you always say, we'll make up for it tomorrow night.
Well, now, I don't know about that, Miss Brooks. You see, Another funny thing happened.
I'll bet it's a riot.
Well, my mother's visiting some friends in Ferndale. As you know, that's only 100 miles from here, as the crow flies.
Maybe she'll... I meant, what has that got to do with tomorrow night?
Well, in the letter I got from Mom yesterday, she said she's going to drop over to see me in a couple of days, which probably means tomorrow, although she'll wire me about the exact time. And when she comes to town, I'll have to call off all dates and spend every night with her.
Well, I seem to have hit the jackpot this morning. I might as well get to my classroom.
Well, goodbye, Miss Brooks.
Bye.
I heard absolutely nothing, Miss Brooks.
Walter Denton, was your ear to that keyhole?
Absolutely not. Cross my heart and hope to die. And I think it's a dirty shame for Mr. Boynton to dust you off for Miss Enright.
Well, now that you know the story of my life, you also know that there's nothing I can do about it.
Well, that's where you're wrong. While I was listening, I was thinking. And I've got a plan that's absolutely foolproof. All it needs is the cooperation of an old pal of mine named Mel Norman.
Mel Norman?
Yeah, you remember him. He graduated from Madison last year. But before he got out, he used to shovel the dirt for the gossip column I've got now.
Oh, now I remember. He's the slimy little boy who got the black sheepskin at commencement. What's your plan, Walter?
Listen, Miss Brooks. First of all, Mel now lives in Ferndale, where Mr. Boynton's mother is visiting friends. Secondly, Mr. B made it clear that he'll call off all dates when his mother gets to town.
So,
all I have to do is make a little phone call to Mel. Tell him to send a wire to Mr. Boynton from Ferndale, signed Mother, and saying that she'll arrive in town tonight. Upon receipt of said wire, Mr. Boynton will immediately cancel his date with Miss Enright and sit home to await Mama.
Go on.
Mr. Boynton will not wait alone, because you'll be sitting there with him, ostensibly to keep him company until the arrival of the dear little lady who just isn't going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
In conclusion, all I ask is that you give me one measly buck to cover the cost of the phone and telegram from Mel. Well, Miss Brooks, what do you think of the scheme?
Walter Denton, that is without a doubt the sneakiest, foulest, and most deplorable scheme I ever heard of. Here's the buck.
The influence of NATO. World War II, the nations of the West took action to prevent World War III. They formed a common defensive shield called the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And in the intervening 2 decades, NATO did what it was designed to do. It has succeeded, enabling the nations to learn from each other, to earn from each other, to live together. In years to come, NATO's scope may widen. It may stand not only as a defensive shield, but also as an influence against the threat to our environment. Yes, on the important ecological, non-military problems of our industrial civilization, the influence of NATO may continue to help us to live together.
Well, shortly before first class, Walter Denton slithered into a phone booth, called his henchman in Ferndale, and got him to send the wire telling Mr. Boynton his mother would arrive that evening. By noon, I was anxious to find out if Mr. Boynton had received the wire, so I headed for the cafeteria at a rather rapid rate. As I jogged past the principal's office, however, Mr. Conklin opened the door, and in the warm and friendly voice he reserves for his favorites on the faculty, he addressed me.
Halt!
Yes, sir. I was just on my way to the...
You don't have to tell me, Miss Brooks. Every day as I sit in my office during the noon hour, some secret sense tells me the exact moment that you are passing by on your way to see Mr. Boynton.
I don't understand.
Well, it's relatively simple. First, there comes the sound of a violent rush of air. After that, my windows rattle, the shades fly up, my desk quivers, and I topple off my swivel chair.
Now, really, Mr. Conklin, you know...
Gad, how I wish we could use you on our track team. But permit me to explain my reason for flagging you down. A telegram came to my office a few moments ago, and I thought you might enjoy delivering it. It's
For Mr. Boynton?
Yes.
Oh, just hand it over, sir. I'll deliver it immediately. Don't worry about a thing. I'll get it to Mr. Boynton in no time at all. Just leave the whole thing to me, and I'll get it
Down, girl, down.
May I have it now, Mr. Conklin?
Here you are, Miss Brooks.
Thank you. I'll just... Oh, that's funny. The back flap of the envelope seems to be quite wrinkled and damp, as if it had been steamed open.
Steamed open? Well, it must have been lying too close to the radiator.
Yes, sir. Can I get you a better bandage for that hand, Mr. Conklin?
I closed the door on it at home. Miss Brooks, I resent your inference that I would open anyone else's message. A man of my integrity does not pry into the affairs of others.
Naturally not, sir. What did it say?
It says I'm arriving tonight at... How do I know what it... Now, take that thing to Mr. Boynton. And Miss Brooks, I'm going to be tied up in my office for a while, so please stop at the steam table and get me a hot turkey sandwich and bring it back immediately.
Immediately, sir. And Mr. Conklin?
Yes?
Won't it be nice to have Mr. Boynton's mother in town for a while? Go ahead and open your telegram, Mr. Boynton.
Thanks. I don't get many telegrams. I wonder who... Oh, Miss Brooks, guess who this is from?
Well, if it's from your mother, it's certainly news to me.
It is from my mother, Miss Brooks. Now, listen to this. I am arriving tonight at Union Station. Not necessary you pick me up, just... Oh, that's strange. These words seem sort of blurred and damp.
It was delivered by a very hot-handed messenger boy. The rest of the sentence probably reads, just wait for me at home.
Well, let's see. Yes, that's what it says. How did you know, Miss Brooks?
What more logical place could one wait for one's mother but in one's own apartment?
Oh, my goodness, this means I'll have to break my date with Miss Enright. Gosh, in view of my promise, it isn't going to be easy for me to tell her she'll have to go to her party without me. I'm sure you appreciate the spot I'm in, Miss Brooks.
Appreciate it? I'm crazy about it. I mean, it's positively sickening. I haven't felt so miserable since I got a $40 tax rebate from the government.
You shouldn't make light of the situation, Miss Brooks. After all, it is Miss Enright's birthday. She might not be able to comprehend my apparent desertion at a time like this.
Believe me, Mr. Boynton, it won't be a new experience for her. Miss Enright has been deserted by more men than a leaky battleship. Now, just think of your mother and cheer up. You'll be overjoyed to see her tonight, I'm sure, and so will I.
You?
Naturally. If I weren't on hand to welcome your dear mother, I'd never forgive myself.
Oh, I had no idea you were so fond of Mom, Miss Brooks.
Fond of her? Mr. Boynton, I wouldn't know what to do without her. Especially tonight. Remember her last visit? Remember how she loved playing checkers with me? I'll be over about 7, and we'll wait for her together.
Well, the wire doesn't say what time she'll arrive. We may have quite a long wait.
I'm a rugged sort, Mr. Boynton. I'll stick it out with you if it takes all month.
Oh, that is a nice gesture on your part to keep me company, Miss Brooks. You know, when you come right down to it, you're a pretty good scout.
Thanks. I'll bring my Bowie knife. Maybe we can whittle some notches on your sofa. Well, now that everything's settled, I've got to get Mr. Conklin a sandwich. See you tonight, Mr. Boynton.
All right, Miss Brooks. I've been wanting to show you my new apartment. I think you'll like it.
Oh, I'm sure we will. Goodbye, Mr. Boynton.
It's apartment 208, Miss Brooks, on the second floor.
I'll find it. Just leave Miss Enright burning in the window for me.
Hi, Miss Brooks.
Oh, hello, Harriet. I was just about to get a sandwich for your dad.
Oh, yes, he told me. I just left his office. Incidentally, Miss Brooks, as I was walking down the hall, I bumped into Miss Enright.
It's hard not to. What did the Elsa Maxwell of Madison have to say?
Well, she told me that Mr. Boynton is taking her to a birthday party tonight. I had no idea she was so young. She says she's only 24 years old.
Why, I doubt her. No matter how old she says she is now, in a few minutes she'll be eligible for Social Security. I'd explain that, Harriet, but I'd better pick up your dad's lunch.
Okay, Miss Brooks. I've got an errand to do myself. See you later, Miss Brooks.
Goodbye, Harriet.
Oh,
There you are. I have a message for you, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, what is it, Harriet?
Daddy stepped out of his office a little while ago, and while I was minding it, a long-distance call came from Ferndale for you.
From Ferndale?
Yes, it was your mother. She said to be sure and tell you she's arriving in town tonight.
But I just received a wire saying... That's Mom for you. I guess she wanted to make doubly certain I'd stay home tonight.
My, what a lovely apartment this is, Mr. Boynton.
I'm glad you like it, Miss Brooks.
Those French doors next to the fireplace, where do they lead?
The fire escape. It'll be great fun. Great for sunbathing. My only regret is that I don't have an extra bedroom. When Mom arrives, I'll have to sleep right here on this couch.
Well, don't rehearse now. It's a very comfy couch, Mr. Boynton, but it's rather wide. Why don't you edge over a bit closer to me?
Oh, please, Miss Brooks. We're already sitting so close together, I could almost reach over and touch you.
Don't knock it till you've tried it. We really should have a gay time tonight, Mr. Boynton. See what's on the coffee table? I've made some punch, just enough for the two of us.
For the two of us?
Yes, 1.5 gallons.
A gallon and a half?
When you want more, just holler. I think you'll like it, Mr. Boynton. There's nothing in it but fresh fruit juices.
Well, in that case, I will have a snort. Say, you've put a lot of fruit in the bowl, too, haven't you? Peaches, pears. Oh, boy, this ought to hit the right spot. I need something to cool me off.
Yes, sir. You're just a ball of fire tonight, Swifty. Go ahead, Mr. Boynton. Drink up.
Here goes. Wow, what did you put in this punch besides fruit, Miss Brooks?
I cannot tell a lie. I spiked it with a smidgen of yogurt. I hope it isn't too much for you, Mr. Boynton.
Come in.
It's me, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, Miss Enright.
Good evening, Miss Enright.
Well, I knew you were expecting your mother, Mr. Boynton, but you didn't say anything about your grandmother coming. Oh, it's you, Miss Brooks.
Yes, it is, Miss Enright. And now that you're here, why don't you let me hang your coat and you in the closet?
Well, I can't stay but a moment.
Goodbye.
Miss Brooks, I told Miss Enright how you volunteered to sit with me until Mom showed up.
Yes, he certainly did, darling. And only minutes ago I was struck with such a brilliant thought that I simply had to drop over and pelt you with it. You see, Miss Brooks, Mr. Boynton also told me how famously you and Mrs. Boynton get along. So when she arrives, I thought it'd be nice if Mr. Boynton were to join me at my birthday party, leaving you here to cut up old touches.
There are some new ones I've got to attend to first.
Well, of course, if you mind staying with Mr. Boynton's mother.
Mind? Why, Miss Brooks loves my mother. And Mom says there's no one she'd rather play checkers with. Right, Miss Brooks?
Right as rain, Mr. B. Miss Enright, when his mother arrives, Mr. Boynton will join you at your party. In the meantime, it isn't polite to keep your other guests waiting.
You're right at last, darling. Au revoir, mon cher.
See you later, Miss Enright.
I'll be waiting, dear Mr. Boynton.
Don't hold your breath, dear Miss Enright.
Oh, it'll be kind of nice to get out to a party tonight after all. When I think of the laughs you and Mom are going to have... Oh, say, I better get out the old checkerboard for you.
Don't waste your energy, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, it's no trouble. I'll set it right up by the punch bowl. I hope Mom gets here soon. The night is practically over.
I know. It's 10 minutes past 8. Look, Mr. Boynton, there is a possibility that Miss Enright's party may be over by the time your mother arrives. So I suggest that we kick back the rugs, put on some dance records, and have our own little party.
Say, that's not a bad idea, Miss Brooks. Give me another glass of that punch and let's live a little. Come in.
Philip, my boy.
Oh, Mother.
And Connie Brooks. Miss Brooks, what are you doing with that punch
bowl? Just pushing the fruit aside before I dive in.
Eve Arden as our Miss Brooks returns in just a moment.
What greater or better gift can we offer the Republic than to teach and instruct our youth?
The United States.
And now, once again, here is our Miss Brooks.
Well, Mrs. Boynton was so eager to renew her feud with her old checker pigeon that she literally swept her son out of his apartment and off to the birthday party. That left Mama, a checkboard, and me.
Let's see now. After I jump your king...
1 minute, Mrs. Boynton. I hope you'll forgive my curiosity, but as I recall, you weren't planning on coming to town until tomorrow. I've been wondering what prompted you to change your mind.
Well, now, I'll tell you. It was power of suggestion.
Power of suggestion?
Exactly, Miss Brooks. I had lunch today at the Ferndale Cafe with a lady who works for the telegraph company there, and she told me that a wire had been sent from her office addressed to a Mr. Boynton.
Go on.
Well, I convinced her that she must have been wrong about the name. But the wire was from some boy's mother, and that's when I said to myself, why not visit Philip tonight? So you see, Miss Brooks, if it hadn't been for that wire, I'd still be at Ferndale. Now, whose move is it?
We each have a jump coming, Mrs. Boynton.
We have?
Yes. You're going to jump my king, and I'm going to jump off the fire escape.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, was produced by Larry Burns and directed by Al Lewis. Written by Arthur Alsberg with the music of Lud Bluskin. Mr. Conklin was played by Gail Gordon. This program came to you from the Frankfurt studios of the American Forces Network Europe and was prepared for rebroadcast over this network by specialist Ed Barron.
Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay, and Palmolive Shave Creams for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks, under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, the nation's teachers took advantage of their Easter vacation in various ways. Some just lolled around the house, others played tennis or golf, and still others took the opportunity to go hunting or fishing. Our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, spent most of her time trapping.
But no matter what kind of bait I used, Mr. Boynton refused to fall into the trap. I was discussing the bashful biologist with my landlady at breakfast last Friday morning. It's not that Mr. Boynton isn't fond of me, Mrs. Davis. This past week has proven that he is.
In what way, Connie?
Well, during the regular school term, Mr. Boynton has asked me for exactly one date a week, right?
Right.
And where did he take me on each and every one of those dates? To the zoo, right?
Right.
But in the past 4 days alone, he's taken me out on 3 dates.
And where did he take you?
If I see one more hyena, I'll laugh in his face. Of course, you can't really blame a scientist for being so interested in animal life, but there must be some way we can get him conditioned to people.
There's still only one foolproof way to attract a mate, Connie, and that's the old-fashioned down-to-earth method, practiced by women throughout the ages.
Mrs. Davis, you mean...
Exactly. Cook him a good hot meal. That'll make him perk up his ears and eyes.
He'll either perk up his ears or turn up his toes. You know what kind of a cook I am, Mrs. Davis.
I'll do the actual cooking, Connie. All you have to do is invite him.
Well, he said he'd phone me this morning. Maybe I can ask him over for lunch.
Splendid. What time did he say he'd call?
At 9:30. And you know how punctual he is.
Yes, indeed. You can set your watch by Mr. Boynton. What time is it now, Connie?
Let's see. Well, that's funny. It's just 9:30 now. I guess Mr. Boynton overslept. I'll get it. Hello?
Sorry I'm late, Miss Brooks.
Oh, you're not very late, Mr. Boynton.
Well, I'm afraid it's past 9:31, and I said I'd call at 9:30.
Well, that's all right. I whiled away the time by whipping up a pot roast.
Miss Brooks, in all the years we've known each other, we've never shared in any one big venture together.
Aren't you forgetting your gasoline bill?
No, I'm serious, Miss Brooks. I'm not much of a boy for these kind of speeches, but, well, I feel that the time has come for me to take a step that might well be the turning point in my life.
Why, Mr. Boynton.
Miss Brooks, I've got a proposal to make to you.
I do. I mean, go ahead, Mr. Boynton.
What I'm suggesting is a partnership. A partnership founded on mutual regard, integrity, and a simple handshake.
My hand's shaking already.
Naturally, I'd like you to keep this proposition a secret until we work out all the details.
Naturally.
And I don't like to talk about a thing like this on the phone. Would it be possible for you to have lunch with me today?
Possible. It's positively probable. What time and where, Mr. Boynton?
Well, you mentioned a pot roast, I believe.
Oh, of course. We'll have lunch right here. How about 12 o'clock?
I'll be there, Miss Brooks. And somehow I have the feeling that this might lead to pretty big things.
If they take after us, they should be. Well, goodbye, Mr. Boynton, dear.
Goodbye, Miss Brooks. Likewise.
Mrs. Davis, it was Mr. Boynton, and he's coming over to lunch.
Good.
We still have most of that pot roast you made for last night's dinner, haven't we?
Certainly, dear. All you'll have to figure out is what to put around the roast.
How about Mr. Boynton and me? Oh, you mean like vegetables and things?
Yes. And you'll want a nice dessert, too. Why don't you stop in at the drugstore and get one of their ice cream cakes?
All right, I'll leave in a few minutes.
And while you're in the drugstore, I wish you'd pick up a couple of batteries for my flashlight. And, oh, yes, I needed a new garden hose, too.
Which drugstore do you have in mind? The one that sells used cars?
No, the one on Elm Street. You know, where my brother Victor got those pretty doe-skin slacks.
I wonder whatever happened to the old-fashioned drugstores. The kind that used to sell peroxide and Blue Jay corn plasters and Hammond organs.
There. The table's all set for lunch, Connie. What time did Mr. Boynton say he was coming?
12 o'clock, Mrs. Davis.
What time is it now?
It's about as 12 o'clock as it'll ever get. But before I let Mr. Boynton in, Mrs. Davis, I'd like to ask a favor of you.
What is it, Connie?
Well, so far it's a big secret, but Mr. Boynton has something very important to say to me today, and I'd appreciate it if you'd, well, just sort of make yourself scarce while he's here.
Oh, I get you, Connie. Don't worry about a thing. I'll do it very tactfully.
Be right with you.
Hi. I hope I haven't kept you waiting, Miss Brooks.
It's only been 4 years. I mean, looking for lunch. Oh, not at all. Come on in, Mr. Boynton.
Hello, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Davis. How are you?
Oh, I can't complain. How's the weather out today?
Well, I should say that the temperature's about 68 with a relative humidity about 20. However, barometric pressure indicates a warm front moving in from the southeast, which would elevate the thermometer considerably.
Roger Wilco, over and out.
I'd like to stay and chat with you for a while, Mr. Boynton, but I've got to rush right into my room.
What's your hurry, Mrs. Davis?
It's the only way I can think of to make myself scarce. Now, you be a good boy, Mr. Boynton. Connie, if you need me, just yell.
I should live so long. Mrs. Davis.
Miss Brooks, before we sit down to lunch, I'd like to clarify some of the remarks I made to you on the telephone. You see, I got the feeling at times that you didn't quite comprehend the nature of this deal.
Deal?
Yes, it's a real estate deal. My Uncle Harry over in Florence has given me the opportunity to pick up the option on a couple of choice lots. I'm letting you in on the ground floor, Miss Brooks.
I couldn't feel any lower if you let me in the basement. I mean, what am I supposed to do with a couple of lots?
Oh, they're not just any lots, Miss Brooks. They're a wonderful buy. My uncle says they should triple in value in a few months, and he ought to know. He's Justice of the Peace in Florence. Knows everybody in town.
Your uncle is Justice of the Peace?
Well, yes, he has been for years.
Well, it's a good thing he doesn't depend on you to throw business his way. But how come you never mentioned your Uncle Harry before?
Oh, I don't know. I never thought of it, I guess. He's always been after me to get married and settle down. Peculiar old codger.
Careful, Mr. Boynton. You're speaking of the uncle I love.
Well, the nicest part of this option is we won't have to put up much cash to secure it.
When can we take a look at these prospective oil fields?
Well, I thought we'd drive out right after lunch. It's not very far.
Oh, fine. Now let's sit down, Mr. Boynton. We'll have a nice, cozy lunch. Just you and me. And the doorbell makes 3. Excuse me. Well, it's Walter Denton.
Greetings, most revered and hallowed instructor.
Well, thanks, Walter, but what brings you to your ivy-covered old teacher during vacation?
Well, I was just cruising around the neighborhood, and I thought you might want to lift somewhere.
Oh, that was very thoughtful, but I've got company, Walter.
Company? Who? Oh, it's Mr. Boynton. Hiya, Mr. Boynton.
Hi, Walter.
We were about to have our lunch.
Lunch? Oh, gee, that's embarrassing, Miss Brooks. My barging in on you like this, I mean. I hardly know what to say.
Have you thought of goodbye, Miss Brooks?
Gosh, something smells awfully good.
Haven't you eaten your lunch yet?
No, I haven't, Miss Brooks.
Then don't let me keep you.
Now I know what that delicious smell is. It's pot roast. Mm-hmm. Miss Brooks, would you mind terribly if I... Well, that is, could I...
Of course, Walter. Go right ahead and take another sniff before you leave.
Oh, well, I'll just say goodbye to Mr. Boynton first. Guess I'll be running along now, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, what's your hurry, Walter?
Oh, Walter has any number of pressing things to do, haven't you?
No, ma'am. No, I haven't got a thing to do. Smell that gravy. I'm starved.
Well, as long as Walter's so hungry, Miss Brooks, maybe you ought to give him a bite.
I'll be glad to. Stick out your arm, Walter. I mean, let's all sit down.
Oh, man, that's what I call a meal. I sure enjoyed it, Miss Brooks.
Oh, I'm glad, Mr. Boynton.
How did you like it, Walter?
He's still liking it. You said a mouthful that time. Well, we'd better get going, Mr. Boynton. If you'll excuse me a moment, I'll say goodbye to Mrs. Davis.
Certainly.
Come in.
I just wanted to say goodbye, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, well, have a nice time, dear. Oh, before you go, I forgot to tell you that while you were shopping, Mr. Conklin called. He said he wanted to talk to you about something this afternoon.
This afternoon? But I'm going to be busy. I'm going over to Florence with Mr. Boynton.
I tell you what, Connie, just leave a phone number where I can reach you. And if Mr. Conklin sounds too terribly urgent the next time he calls, I'll let you know.
All right, Mrs. Davis. And when you go into the dinette, don't be alarmed if you see a tall boy with a slightly purple face. It's Walter Denton.
Walter Denton? What's he doing here?
The last time I saw him, he was eating the string around the pot roast.
Well, before she and Mr. Boynton left for the community of Florence, Miss Brooks jotted down his Uncle Harry's phone number and left it on Mrs. Davis's telephone stand. About an hour later, Walter Denton arose from the living room couch, stretched, yawned, and spoke.
Oh, nothing like a good meal and a nice nap. Miss Brooks and Mr. Boynton took off, huh?
Quite a while ago. But while you were sleeping, Mr. Conklin called and said he had some important reports that he wanted Miss Brooks to get out by tonight.
Where'd she go?
She didn't say. She just left this phone number. But I've misplaced my glasses again. Will you dial it for me?
Oh, sure, Mrs. Davis. Abba dabba dabba dabba. Funny, I can never remember the rest of those words.
Hello, Justice Henderson speaking.
Who?
Justice of the Peace Henderson.
I must have the wrong number. Is this Florence 2164?
That's right.
Well, is Miss Brooks or Mr. Boynton there?
Oh, no, indeed. They were here, but as soon as they signed the necessary papers, they took off like a couple of kids.
Papers? You mean they...
Oh, they sure are. They're hooked up now.
I'll be. Thanks, Your Justiceship. Thanks a lot.
Who were you talking to, Walter?
To a Justice of the Peace, Mrs. Davis. Our little Miss Brooks is a married woman.
What? Oh, but she never mentioned a word to me. Surely she... Well, she must have a very good reason for keeping this marriage a secret. Now, I know I can depend on you to keep whatever you suspect to yourself, Walter.
As one of Miss Brooks' most trusted confidants, I can do no less, Mrs. Davis. Rest assured that this secret is ours and ours alone. Let's see now. What's Harriet Conklin's phone number again?
Oh, 76, 77. Hey, here we are, 78 and 79. These are the lots we've optioned, Miss Brooks. How do you like them?
I can't see them under all that mud.
Must have rained out here last night. But this property's going to be very valuable someday. All it needs is a few improvements.
You mean like replacing the swamp with a dirt road?
I know you're jesting, Miss Brooks. Oh, it's beautiful out here. Just take a breath of that air. It's enough to make a person burst into song.
I know just how you feel. Bum, 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 Chloe! Bum, bum, bum,
Please, Miss Brooks. These happen to be two of the choicest lots in this part of the country.
I know, but what country is this?
My Uncle Harry wouldn't give us a wrong steer, Miss Brooks. This may be the start of a very lucrative sideline. After we sell this property at a profit, there's no telling how far we can go.
Unless we pick up a couple of lots on Mars, this is about as far as anybody can go.
Oh, it isn't that bad. Well, I guess we better start back now.
Just how far is it to civilization, Mr. Boynton?
I don't know the exact mileage, but we're not too far from home. Now, don't worry, I'll get you back all right.
Oh, I'm not worried, Mr. Boynton. But just to be on the safe side, let's get some directions from that bear over there.
Daddy! Oh, Daddy, where are you?
I'm lying down on the living room couch, Harriet. You have my permission to approach me.
There was a phone call while you were napping, Daddy.
Yes, I heard it vaguely, but I dozed off again while you were speaking. Was it Miss Brooks answering the previous call?
No, Daddy, it was Walter. Golly, I don't like to violate a confidence, but you are my father, and you also happen to be the principal of my high school. Of course...
Harriet, this is vacation time for me. When your dear mother left the house this morning to visit your dear granny, I rather looked forward to this as a day which would be singularly free from yatata. So if you cannot control this impulse to jabber at me, please...
But it's not jabber, Daddy. It's... Oh, wait till you hear this news.
Please, child. Must you make all your remarks sound like a bulletin which will send me leaping into the air as if a couch spring had erupted beneath me?
I'm sorry, Daddy. It's just that Miss Brooks is eloped.
So she's eloped. During her vacation period, every teacher is entitled to do whatever he or she... Miss Brooks has eloped! I must be calm. I must remember my blood pressure. So she's done it. The one woman on the entire faculty I could have sworn was elope-proof.
Oh, Daddy, Daddy, you shouldn't be so upset. After all, it isn't a tragedy.
Oh, it isn't, eh? Do you think you find capable English teachers on trees?
No, Daddy.
Although at the moment I wouldn't mind seeing this one dangling from a tree. Well, don't stand there gaping, girl. It's almost 5:30. We've got to go over to Mrs. Davis's place and get to the bottom of this.
But what can we do, Daddy? By now they're probably on their honeymoon.
That's where you're wrong, Harriet. Mr. Boynton couldn't possibly start on his honeymoon today.
Why not?
The zoo closes at 5 sharp.
It's getting pretty dark, Mr. Boynton. We'll have to hurry if we're to be home in time for dinner.
Oh, I'm not planning on getting back for dinner, Miss Brooks. After the splendid lunch you prepared for me at noon, I thought it only fair to reciprocate.
You mean we're going to a restaurant?
Not exactly. I thought we'd eat on the road.
Aren't you afraid of being hit by passing cars?
There are lots of nice little roadside places, Miss Brooks. After all, it isn't the food that's important. It's the fun of having it together.
You're so right, Mr. Boynton. And being treated to dinner is even more fun.
Of course, after that lunch we had, it'll be difficult to eat very much more.
Oh, I don't know. I could find room.
Just think, we had pot roast, potatoes, lima beans, salad, rice pudding, and milk.
But that was 6 hours ago.
I know, but when people get past their 20s, Miss Brooks, much of their caloric intake turns to nothing but flabby blubber, and if there's one thing that makes a woman attractive to me, it's a nice, slim figure.
Mr. Boynton?
Yes?
Pass me a toothpick and keep on driving.
Almost 7 o'clock, and still no word from Connie. It isn't like her to do things like this.
Get married, you mean?
Please, Walter, this is no laughing matter.
Just think, Mr. Conklin. Only 6 hours ago I had lunch with them.
What? Then you must have been the last person to see them alive. Single. Of course, outside of that alleged justice of the peace you spoke to, there's no real proof that they're married.
Oh, golly, Daddy, what more proof do you want?
Tell me, Denton, when you saw them at lunch, how did they act? How did they look?
The same way they always do. Miss Brooks didn't take her eyes off Mr. Boynton's face, and Mr. Boynton didn't take his eyes off his plate.
Oh, that's the front door. I'll go.
Oh, and me too.
So will I.
Harriet, stand where you are. We'll wait in here.
Connie.
And Mr. Boynton, come on in.
Hi, folks.
Connie, you bad girl. You should have let me know. At least I could have had some rice ready to toss at you.
Well, thanks just the same, Mrs. Davis. But when you get past 20, rice just turns to blubber.
Congratulations, Mr. Boynton. And you too, Miss Brooks. Miss Brooks. Oh, gosh, I guess I'll always think of you as Miss Brooks. You don't mind, do you?
Mine? What should you think of me as? Casey Stengel?
Still in there pitching. But what you've done has made most of us very I, for one, am looking forward to the day when you invite me out to your new place.
Well, you can come out anytime, Walter.
Sure, we'll sit around and make mud pies.
You've got more company in the living room, Connie. Come on in.
Oh? Well, Mr. Conklin and Harriet.
Best of everything, folks.
Thanks, Harriet.
I cannot share my daughter's enthusiasm for this affair. I'm deeply chagrined at not being notified.
Well, you see, sir, my uncle didn't want too many people to know about it.
Your uncle? What has he got to do with anything?
Oh, he was responsible for the whole deal. He's the justice of the peace in Florence.
But as principal of Madison High, I am entitled
If I may say so, Mr. Conklin, I don't think it should concern anyone at school if I want to go out and pick up a piece of property.
What a strange way to put it. But it does concern Madison. I have a right to know whether or not we're losing our English teacher.
Losing me? But, Mr. Conklin, I'm nowhere near financial independence yet. I've got to continue my teaching. Don't forget, this is only my first venture.
Your first venture?
Well, certainly. If this one works out, you may take a crack at 4 or 5 others.
What?
Well, why not? After all, Mr. Boynton's uncle can probably put me next to plenty of good things.
Miss Walter, leave the room at once. You're too young for this sort of conversation.
We've aged considerably in the last few minutes. I can't understand you, Connie, taking your marriage so lightly.
My marriage?
Her marriage?
Didn't you two get married this afternoon?
Miss Brooks and me get married this afternoon? What? Heavens, no. Can you imagine anything like that, Miss Brooks?
Constantly.
But if you're not married, why did Walter tell Harriet that you
I
were...
only told Harriet what Justice Henderson told me, that they signed the papers and were hooked up.
Oh, now I understand. When Uncle Harry told you we were hooked up, you thought we were married.
Well, sure, wouldn't you?
Oh, but the whole thing was just a real estate deal. Miss Brooks and I bought some lots together.
Lots? Well, this is rich.
What a mix-up.
It's a dream.
This entire affair is nothing but a comedy of errors. As a student of Shakespeare, don't you agree, Miss Brooks?
As a student of the Kefauver Committee, I refuse to answer on the grounds that it may tend to incriminate me.
To another Our Miss Brooks show, brought to you by Palmolive Shave Cream for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave, and Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay. Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written by Al Lewis and Arthur Alsberg, with the music of Wilbur Hatch. Bob Lamont speaking. Stay tuned now for Jack Benny. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Just a nickname because his family came to Clay City from Texas.
Sounds reasonable.
His real name is Vic Barton. Don't you remember the fellow who scored over 50 points against us in the game last year?
Well, now that you mention it, I do remember a boy named Vic Barton.
Well, Tex Barton and Vic Barton are the same person.
No wonder he's so tall.
Well, here we are, Miss Brooks. Oh, say, I think that's Tex going toward school now. After you, Miss Brooks.
Thanks, Walter.
Hey, wait up, Tex. I want to talk to you.
Well, if it ain't Walter Denton, I'm sure glad to... Oh, excuse me, ma'am. I reckon you're Walter's mother.
Have another reckon on me.
This is Miss Brooks, Tex. She teaches English here.
English?
Yes, it's a language spoken just north of Texas. Well, I've got to be getting in now. Nice to have met you, Tex.
Most people feel that way. Well, we really didn't meet hardly. Would you mind if I joined you after school and we chinned for a spell?
Well, I'm afraid I'll have to take my chin home after school. I've got to help Mrs. Davis fix dinner tonight.
Now, that's awful decent of you, ma'am. I'll be happy to have dinner with you.
Huh?
You see, my folks will be out visiting tonight. After I spend what I got on me for lunch, I won't be able to afford no dinner unless I gets me an invite.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, down home, we don't think twice about sharing a grub with a stranger. Yes, sir, there's nothing like splitting your chow to help you get acquainted.
Well, get a pencil. I'll tell you how to get to my chuck wagon.
That won't be necessary, Miss Brooks. I'll bring Tex over myself at 6 o'clock sharp. And ma'am thanks a heap for the invite.
You're welcome, Hoppy.
Miss Brooks, suppose you take Tex into Mr. Conklin's office. You can help him get registered real quick. And speed is of the essence, as you know.
Yes, I do. All right, Walter, you park your car, and I'll take Tex in with me.
That's mighty obliging of you, ma'am. Do you think the principal will be willing to swear me in this morning?
Well, it's all according to his mood, Tex. I can promise you one thing, though. When we get to his office, you'll either be sworn in or at. Mr. Conklin's office is right down this hall, Tex. You two have got to be friends. Now go ahead, Tex. Give him your paw. Shake hands.
right, ma'am. Now, listen to me, Mr. Conklin.
You listen to me. You go right back to Jason Brill and tell him we don't want any of his Clay City dunces cluttering up Madison.
Oh, please, Mr. Conklin, you can't know on this short notice whether Tex is a dunce or not.
That's right. You ain't got no proof, nohow. But if you don't want me to go to your school, I'll just go right on back to Clay City.
Oh, wait, Tex. You'll be glad to welcome Tex into Madison, Mr. Conklin, if you'll just let me tell you why you've got to accept him.
I have got to accept no one. Madison High is my kingdom, Miss Brooks, and the choice of the subjects therein is my choice and mine alone. The interview is at an end.
But, Mr. Conklin...
That is all. Dismissed!
Aye, sir. Come on, Tex. I'll show you to the door. Tex, I'll talk to him alone and bring you back when he's in a better mood.
Okay, Miss Brooks. You sure been mighty decent to me, ma'am. Hasta la vista.
Mm-hmm. Adios, hombre. Mr. Conklin. Sir. Sire.
Yes?
Far be it from me to question your motives, but I'm afraid you've hurt that boy's feelings.
Well, perhaps I was a bit harsh with the lad, but he caught me at a bad time. I just hung up on Jason Brill when you both arrived. That malevolent old devil phoned just to taunt me about the basketball game Friday night. He got me so upset I bet him a new hat on the outcome of the game before I remembered the results of last year's contest.
That was disastrous, wasn't it?
They clobbered us. I dug up the newspaper account of the game from my file. I've got it right here. Now, look at this headline. Clay City ekes out victory over Madison 124-7.
That must have been quite a second half. There's an interesting subhead, too. It says, wild-eyed spectator leaps on court and bites basketball. Ushers eject Osgood Conklin.
That story is a bald-faced lie.
I know it is, Mr. Conklin. I was there. You bit the referee.
I merely broke his whistle. What burns me up the most, though, is this reminder that after the game, Madison was presented with the symbol of defeat, Cornelius the Goat.
Let's see. Oh, here's that part. Cornelius must be fed and housed on the campus of the losing team for the entire school year. After 4 years of defeat, the goat becomes the permanent property of the humiliated institution. Well, that's a switch on a loving cup.
Let me remind you, Miss Brooks, that Madison has lost 3 games in a row to Clay City. If we lose this one, that bleating monstrosity will be on our hands forever.
Mr. Conklin, do you remember a boy named Barton who scored over 50 points against us for Clay City?
Barton. Oh, of course I remember now. He ran us ragged.
Well, that happens to be Tex Barton, the boy you just gave the old heave-ho.
What? And he wanted to transfer to Madison? Miss Brooks. Dear Miss Brooks. We've got to do something. You've got to do something. Anything.
Calm down, Mr. Conklin. All isn't lost. He's coming to my house for dinner tonight, and I'm sure I can undo some of the damage your temper has done.
That is my problem, Miss Brooks. I'll be happy to have dinner at your house tonight. After all, in Texas, we always say there's nothing like splitting your chow to help get better acquainted.
So I've heard. And the way I figure, if and I can wrestle up enough grub, we might get so well acquainted we'd never have to talk to each other again.
Brush your teeth with Colgate. Colgate Dental Cream. It cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
Colgate toothpaste.
Cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
Colgate Dental Cream cleans your breath while it cleans your teeth. And the Colgate way stops tooth decay best. Yes, the Colgate way is the most thoroughly proved and accepted home method of oral hygiene known today. Over 2 years' research showed brushing teeth right after eating with Colgate Dental Cream helped stop more decay for more people than ever before reported in dentifrice history. The Colgate way stopped tooth decay best.
No other dentifrice, ammoniated or not, offers such conclusive proof. And you should know that Colgate's, while not mentioned by name, was the only toothpaste used in the research on tooth decay recently reported in Reader's Digest.
So always follow the Colgate way to clean your breath while you clean your teeth. And stop tooth decay best.
By transcription.
Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay, and Palmolive Shave Creams for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave, bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks, under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, many of the traditional basketball rivalries were settled during the past week. And Madison High School, where our Miss Brooks teaches English, was no exception. Their big game with Clay City High was scheduled for Friday night. And last Wednesday morning, while driving her to school, Walter Denton, the team's manager, tried to sell Miss Brooks a ticket.
I'm sorry, Walter, but I don't think I'm interested.
Don't think you're interested. But, Miss Brooks, that's treason.
How much are the seats?
$1 apiece.
If this be treason, make the most of it. Look, Walter, I don't want you to think that I'm lacking in school spirit. The reason I haven't attended more games this season is because of embarrassment. Our team was just awful. 16 straight defeats, isn't it?
This year, altogether, it's 39. But the important game is Friday night with Clay City.
I know. I saw the Clay City game last year. I'll never forget how miserable I felt when I left that gym. The score was Clay City 92, Madison 6.
You shouldn't have left. They really clobbered us in the second half.
Well, I hope we make a better showing this year, if only to keep our beloved principal's blood pressure from reaching a new high.
Well, I don't like to be prematurely optimistic, Miss Brooks, but I met a fellow on our campus yesterday who may make a big difference in the outcome of Friday night's game.
You mean through him we have a chance of winning?
Definitely.
I'm surprised at you, Walter. You should have turned him in to the district attorney immediately.
Well, you don't understand. Now, this is a kid who went to Clay City High until his folks moved into our district last week. And now he's going to transfer to Madison. And, Miss Brooks, the minute he told me his name, I knew he'd be a cinch to make our basketball team. Guess who it was?
Lionel Barrymore.
I'm serious, Miss Brooks. Now, this guy happens to be the greatest scholastic basketball player in this area. And what a build on him. He must be 6'4".
Who is this super kid, Walter?
Well, his name is Tex Barton. Of course, Tex is...
Well, all right, Daddy, but you don't have to bite my head off. Hello, Miss Brooks. Daddy's having one of his tantrums again. Well, what have we here?
Oh, this is Tex Barton, Harriet. Tex, this is Harriet Conklin.
Howdy.
Hello. You're a long one, aren't you?
Longer than some, ma'am.
And cuter than most. Are you going to be a student here?
I sure hope so. Now.
Say, you're really something.
I try to be. And if I ain't too bold, miss, I wouldn't exactly call you a little old lump of sugar, but I wouldn't want to leave you too close to my little old Pinto either.
I wish I know what to tell my little old stomach. Now, you'll have to excuse us, Harriet. We've got to see your father right away.
All right, Miss Brooks. See you later, Tex.
Goodbye.
Who goes there?
Two friends, sir. Two unarmed friends.
Come in.
Good morning, Mr. Conklin. I wouldn't disturb you, sir, but it's quite important.
One moment, please. So it's finally happened, Miss Brooks. Mr. Boynton has taken you to the zoo once too often.
The zoo?
Don't look now, but one of the giraffes has followed you to school.
Please, Mr. Mr. Conklin. This is Tex Barton. Tex, I'd like you to meet Madison's principal, Mr. Osgood Conklin.
Howdy.
What do you know? It talks. Now, what can I do for you, and please be brief?
I thought you might check his transfer papers, Mr. Conklin. Tex wants to enroll as soon as possible.
Well, I suppose that can be arranged. From what high school are you transferring?
Clay City.
Fine. I'm always happy to meet any boy who comes from Clay City.
Yes, sir. Our principal, Mr. Brill, told me a lot about you, Mr. Conklin. But I'm glad to meet you anyhow.
Oh, you are. Miss Brooks, kindly remove this elongated St. Bernard from my office.
Now, hold on there. Who are you calling a St. Bernard?
Oh, don't be angry, Tex. Mr. Conklin didn't mean anything derogatory.